The conference room air felt thick enough to choke on. All eyes were on me. My palms were slick against my notebook. For 18 months, I'd stayed silent, my bank account bleeding dry. Today, I'd finally asked the question. Olivia, I was just following up on the overtime payment for the Q3 audit. The portal still shows it as pending approval. The silence that followed was worse than any yelling. My manager, Olivia Shaw, placed her manicured hands flat on the polished table. A slow, pitying smile spread across her face. Maya, we've talked about this. That extra work was an investment in your future here at Sterling and Price. Real team players understand that distinction. Her words were syrup-coated daggers. Around the table, my colleagues studied their laptops, their coffee cups, anything but my burning face. I was being made an example of, right there in the Tuesday status meeting. The message was clear: ask again, and you're not a team player. Ask again, and you're gone. I fled to the bathroom, my heart hammering against my ribs. I leaned against the cool stall door, taking deep, shaky breaths. The humiliation was a physical heat on my skin. But underneath it, a colder feeling was growing. Anger. I thought of the final notice from my landlord, still sitting on my kitchen table. I remembered the dinner I'd skipped last week to make a partial credit card payment. For 18 months, I believed the promise that the investment would pay off. I'd worked through lunches, past midnight, and on weekends, watching my life shrink to the glow of this spreadsheet and that report. Olivia's favorite phrase echoed, "Prove your dedication, and the rewards will follow." The only thing that had followed was more work and less sleep. I splashed water on my face, staring at my tired reflection. My father's voice, calm and sure, came to me from years ago. "The law is a shield, Maya, but you have to hold it up. They only win if you think you're powerless." I wasn't powerless. I was just very, very patient. That night, in my tiny apartment, I didn't cry. I opened my laptop. I didn't go to my work emails. Instead, I opened a private browser and navigated to a secure, encrypted cloud drive. The password was a long string of numbers and letters I had memorized. Inside was a single folder, created 18 months ago, labeled SP_ledger. I opened it. The screen filled with files. Hundreds of them. Screenshots of project management tickets with my late-night completion times. Photos of my office building security badge reader logs, showing my exits long after dark. Saved copies of Slack messages where Olivia would write, "Need this by 8 a.m., sent at 11 p.m. Most importantly, a master spreadsheet. Every single hour, dated, described, and matched to a company project code. I had documented everything. I opened a new tab. The State Department of Labor website glowed on the screen. My cursor hovered over the button that said, "File a wage complaint." I took one more deep breath, and I clicked. The next morning, I reviewed my logs with new eyes. I wasn't just looking at hours. I was looking for a pattern, a strategy. I noticed something crucial. Olivia was careful. She never put an overtime denial in a formal email. It was always a quick verbal chat by the coffee machine, a vague comment in a meeting, or a hurried Slack message that felt informal. "Just get it done, we'll sort the pay later," was her favorite line. She was creating a paper trail of promises, not denials. But my own trail was stronger. Every time she said that in Slack, I'd taken a screenshot. After every verbal chat, I'd immediately sent myself an email on my personal account detailing what was said and when. It was a habit my father had drilled into me. If it isn't written down, it didn't happen. So write it down yourself. Her system relied on our fear and forgetfulness. My system relied on cold, hard facts. I spent the weekend organizing my arsenal. My small dining table became a war room. I printed out key screenshots and arranged them in chronological order on a big poster board. I color-coded my master spreadsheet, red for hours explicitly requested by Olivia, yellow for weekend work, blue for late nights past 10 p.m. The total was staggering. It wasn't just a few missed payments. It was thousands of dollars. A down payment on a car. A year of rent. I felt a surge of fury, but I pushed it down. Anger was messy. Focus was clean. I created a new document, a simple timeline for the investigator. Date: Olivia's demand. Evidence: the screenshot. Date: my completion. Evidence: the server log. Date: the pay period ends with no overtime. Evidence: the pay stub. It was a perfect, undeniable chain. I was building a castle of evidence, and every brick was a fact she couldn't argue with. I needed advice, but not from a lawyer yet. I needed perspective. I drove to my parents' house. My dad, retired now, was in his garden. I didn't tell him the whole story, just that I was having a work dispute. He wiped his hands on his jeans and looked at me, really looked. "They're counting on you being too tired to fight," he said. "They think the hassle will scare you off. The law is on your side, but the law needs two things: a clear pattern and a credible witness. You're the witness. Find the pattern, not just your piece of it. One bee sting is an annoyance. A hive is a problem they have to deal with." He didn't tell me what to do. He gave me the tools to think. As I left, he handed me a tomato from his vine. "Remember," he said, "the quietest people are often the ones listening the hardest. You've been listening for 18 months. Now, what did you hear?" Back at work on Monday, the atmosphere was tense. Olivia was buzzing with a false, aggressive energy. She called a mandatory team bonding happy hour after work. At the bar, surrounded by her favorite yes people, she grew louder with every glass of wine. I sat in the corner, nursing a soda. Then I heard it. Her voice carried over the din. "And the key is managing the labor budget," she slurred slightly. "You keep the expectations high, you talk about growth opportunities, and you never ever put the overtime approval in writing. It's all about motivation. A lean department is a hungry department." My colleague, Sam, was sitting next to her. His face was stiff. I saw his hand dip below the table. Was he texting? Or was he, like I had learned to do, hitting record on his phone? I made eye contact with him for a second. He looked away, guilty. But he didn't stop whatever he was doing. A new piece was falling into place. Digging through the company's ancient intranet for a template, I stumbled upon a forgotten HR policy repository. Buried under layers of outdated memos was a document titled Overtime Authorization Protocol, Revised. The date was 3 years old. My breath caught as I read it. It stated, in clear, bold letters, all non-exempt employee overtime must be pre-approved in writing by the department head using Form OT-7. Verbal or informal digital authorization is not sufficient for payroll processing. It had Olivia's predecessor's signature on it. This was the company's own rule. Olivia hadn't just been skirting fairness, she had been deliberately violating company policy to make her budget look good. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a chosen method. I downloaded the PDF and added it to my cloud drive. This changed everything. Now, it wasn't just my word against hers. It was the company's own rulebook against her actions. Sam cornered me by the printers 2 days later. He looked exhausted. I heard what you're doing. Or I think I know." He lowered his voice. "They owe me for 6 months of Sundays. But I have a baby at home. My wife is on leave. Olivia knows that. She told me if I made waves, my position would be evaluated. I can't lose this job." His eyes were pleading. "What you're doing is brave. But please, don't use my name. I can't fight." I saw the fear in him, the same fear that had kept me quiet for so long. I just nodded. I understand, Sam. He wasn't an enemy. He was a prisoner. His confession, though, was another data point. I wasn't alone. This was bigger than just me. Olivia's system had other victims, all too scared to speak. It made my resolve harder, colder. Someone had to be the first to break the silence. I needed undeniable proof of my physical presence in the office. My badge logs were good, but IT could theoretically say they were glitchy. I needed the system's own unbiased testimony. I thought of Leo in IT. He was a quiet, kind man in his 50s who fixed everyone's computer problems without complaint. He was the only person who ever asked how my weekend was and actually waited for the answer. I went to the IT help desk with a simple question about email archives. While he worked, I made small talk. Then carefully I said, "You know, it's funny, I was here so late last Tuesday finishing the Porter files, and my badge didn't seem to log me out. Do the server logs ever show that kind of activity, just for my own records?" Leo looked at me over his glasses, his eyes thoughtful. He didn't answer my question. Instead, he said softly, "The system logs everything, Maya. Everything. It's all time-stamped and unchangeable. It's the most honest thing in this building." A silent understanding passed between us. He knew what I was really asking. The bomb dropped on a Thursday afternoon. An email from corporate HR, addressed to Olivia and CC'd to our generic department inbox, with the subject line, "Formal Inquiry, State Labor Department." The body was dry and legal, simply notifying management of a filed wage complaint and requesting a preliminary meeting. Olivia's office door slammed shut. 10 minutes later, she stormed out, her face pale with fury. She called an immediate all-hands meeting. "It has come to my attention," she hissed, "that someone in this department has filed a frivolous, damaging complaint against this team. This is an act of supreme disloyalty. When I find out who it is, there will be severe consequences. I suggest whoever did this withdraws it immediately." Her eyes swept over us, landing on each person, trying to find the guilt. I kept my face a calm, blank mask. Inside, my heart was a drum. The war had begun. I found Leo in the server room at the end of the day. The hum of the machines was the only sound. I didn't say anything. I just showed him the HR email on my phone. He sighed, a long, weary sound. "Come here," he said. He led me to a monitor and typed in a series of commands. A black screen filled with green text, lines of code and timestamps scrolling past. "This is the authentication log," he whispered. "See this?" He pointed. User, M. Wilson, Maya. Login, 2147. Logout, 213. Project server, file, Porter _audit_finaled, XLSX, accessed, modified, saved, ***, that's your proof. Then he typed another command. A new log appeared. User, O. Shaw, Olivia. Login, 225. File accessed, department _timesheets _Q3.xls. Modification, entry for M. Wilson, overtime hours field changed from 18.5 to 0.0. Save time, 02:28. ***, I stared. She hadn't just denied the overtime. She had gone into the system after I left and erased it. Leo ejected a small USB drive and handed it to me. "It's all there. And Maya, she didn't just do it to you." The evidence was no longer just about missing hours. It was about fraud. The formal notice arrived a week later. This one wasn't an email. It was a crisp, official letter from the State Department of Labor, delivered by mail to Sterling and Price's head of HR and to Olivia directly. It scheduled an on-site investigative interview for 2 weeks from that date. The word investigative made it serious. The office gossip exploded. Who was it? People looked at each other with suspicion. Sam wouldn't meet my eyes. Others whispered in small groups. Olivia became a ghost, locked in her office or in frantic meetings with HR and higher-ups. The fear in the air shifted. It was no longer just fear of Olivia. It was a fear of the unknown, of the giant machine of the law starting to turn its gears toward our small department. I went about my work, quiet and efficient, but I felt the change. The ground was stirring beneath our feet. 3 days before the inspection, Olivia called me into her office. Her smile was terrifyingly sweet. "Maya, close the door." She pushed a single sheet of paper across her desk. "I know things have been tense. I want to fix this. I may have been overzealous in protecting our budget. Sign this acknowledgement that you voluntarily waived overtime for those periods for professional development training, and I will personally approve a one-time bonus that covers most of it. We can put this all behind us." The paper was a lie. It stated I had received valuable mentorship in lieu of payment. My phone was in my pocket. I subtly pressed the side button, starting the voice memo app my father had shown me long ago. "So," I said, keeping my voice calm, "if I sign this, you'll pay me the overtime you owe me?" Her smile tightened. "We'll call it a bonus. And we'll forget this ugly complaint ever happened." "And if I don't sign?" Her smile vanished. "Then we proceed with your performance review, which, given your recent disruptive behavior, may not go the way you hope." The threat was clear: sign or be fired. "I need to think about it," I said, and stood up, my recording still running. I left her office, the unsigned paper feeling like a live coal in my hand. I went straight to the bathroom, locked a stall, and uploaded the audio file to my cloud drive alongside the server logs. Then I composed an email to the labor inspector's case number, which was on the formal notice. "Per our upcoming interview," I wrote, "I am submitting supplemental evidence that demonstrates willful alteration of records and attempted coercion." I attached the audio file and the relevant server log snippet. I didn't explain it. The evidence would speak for itself. I hit send. The trap was no longer just mine. The state had its foot in the door. Olivia's attempt to cover her tracks had just created the clearest evidence yet of her guilt and her consciousness of that guilt. She had handed me the final piece. The day before the inspector arrived, the department was a morgue. The usual office sounds were gone, replaced by a heavy, waiting silence. Then, in the break room, I saw it happen. 2 junior analysts, people I'd barely spoken to, were at the coffee machine. One, a young woman named Anya, said softly, "She made me cancel my anniversary dinner. Said the report was more important." The other, Mark, nodded grimly. "My dad's birthday. I missed it." They weren't talking to me. They were talking to each other, a quiet rebellion sparking. Sam was listening from a nearby table. He didn't join in, but he didn't walk away either. The spell of isolation was breaking. People were realizing their private misery was a shared experience. The fear was slowly turning into a solid, collective anger. We weren't just individuals being picked off anymore. We were a group that had been exploited. The morning of the inspection, Sam walked up to my desk before anyone else arrived. He placed a folded piece of paper next to my keyboard. His hands were shaking. "I couldn't sleep," he whispered. "My wife told me that letting this happen to someone else meant I was letting it happen to our son's future." He unfolded the paper. It was a handwritten list of dates, projects, and hours. His own overtime log. "I emailed the inspector last night. I gave a statement. I named names." He looked terrified and brave all at once. "I'm your witness, Maya." The broken ally had found his courage. His defection was the crack that would split Olivia's world wide open. He wasn't just supporting my story. He was confirming the pattern, the system. He was proof it wasn't personal. It was policy. Olivia made her last, desperate move an hour before the meeting. She marched to my desk, HR's stern-faced representative, Ms. Green, trailing behind her. Maya, effective immediately, you are placed on paid administrative leave pending a full investigation into your performance and conduct. It was a blatant, obvious act of retaliation. Ms. Green looked uncomfortable. Olivia, given the pending state interview, I must advise, I am her manager and this is my decision. Olivia snapped. I simply looked at Ms. Green. The Department of Labor investigator is arriving in 47 minutes for a scheduled interview regarding wage theft. Will I be directed to leave the premises, or should I attend as summoned? Ms. Green's professional mask slipped into pure panic. You will attend the interview, she said firmly to me, then turned to Olivia. This discussion is over. We will reconvene after the state meeting. Olivia's face was a mask of pure, furious defeat. Her final weapon had been taken from her. The conference room was packed and silent. At the head of the table sat Mr. Davies, the labor inspector, a man with a calm demeanor and sharp eyes. Next to him was Ms. Green from HR. Olivia sat rigidly across from them. Sam, Anya, and I filled the other chairs. The air was icy. Mr. Davies spent 20 minutes reviewing his file, asking Olivia basic questions about department procedures. She gave smooth, rehearsed answers about professional development and bonus structures. Then, Mr. Davies turned his tablet around. On it was a screenshot of the server log Leo had given me. He pointed to the line showing Olivia's late-night login and the change to my timesheet. He looked directly at Olivia, his voice quiet but carrying to every corner of the silent room. Ms. Shaw, can you explain the discrepancy between the immutable server activity logs and the overtime reports you approved for your department? The silence was absolute. You could hear the hum of the overhead lights. Olivia's mouth opened, then closed. Her confident mask shattered into 1,000 pieces. There must be a system error, she stammered. The logs, they can be misinterpreted. Mr. Davies didn't blink. He laid out another page. My timeline, with the Slack screenshot of her demand. Then another. The server log of my late work. Then another. The payroll report showing 0 overtime. He did the same for Sam's dates. Then for Anya's. The evidence formed a perfect, damning lattice, each piece supporting the others. He finally played the audio clip. Her voice, offering the bonus for my silence, filled the room. That doesn't sound like a system error, Mr. Davies said quietly. Olivia looked at Ms. Green, who was staring at the table, her face ashen. There were no more lies left. The house of cards didn't just fall, it dissolved into dust. The reckoning was swift. Mr. Davies stated his preliminary findings aloud: willful violation of wage and hour laws, evidence of record tampering, and clear indicators of retaliatory intent. He looked at Ms. Green. Your company is now liable for treble damages for the willful non-payment. This investigation is now expanded to a company-wide audit of this department's practices for the last 3 years. He then looked at Olivia. You are compelled to remain available for further inquiry. I advise you to seek legal counsel. It was a professional death sentence. Ms. Green stood. Olivia, you are suspended, effective immediately. Please gather your personal items from your office. Security will escort you. The walk from the conference room to her office was the longest, quietest walk I'd ever witnessed. Every head in the department turned to watch, but no one said a word. The silence was her verdict. After she was gone, the office didn't erupt into chaos. It settled into a strange, hollow quiet. I went back to my desk. The oppressive weight that had lived on my shoulders for 18 months was simply gone. I felt light, almost dizzy. A few minutes later, Mark from the break room walked by. He didn't say anything. He just placed a fresh cup of coffee next to my keyboard and gave my shoulder the faintest pat before moving on. It was the first gesture of open solidarity I'd ever received there. Others began to move again, conversations starting in low murmurs. The fear had left with Olivia. What was left was a tired, shocked space, but it was a space that could finally breathe. I took a sip of the coffee. It tasted like the first normal thing in a very long time. Ms. Green called me into HR the next day. Her office was different now. No more cold authority, just weary professionalism. Maya, on behalf of Sterling and Price, I offer our deepest apologies. This was a profound failure of management. She slid a document across the desk. It was a settlement offer. It covered every single hour on my log, at the correct overtime rate, plus an additional amount as a penalty, as prescribed by law. The total was life-changing. We are also prepared to offer you a transfer to a new role in a different division, reporting to a new director, she added. I looked at the number on the paper. It was justice, quantified. I didn't sign it then. I took the paper. I need to review this with my advisor, I said. I didn't have an advisor. But I had my father, and I had all the time in the world. I met Sam and Anya for coffee that weekend. Leo joined us too. We weren't colleagues anymore. We were allies who had survived a battle. HR is settling with everyone in the department, Sam said, a real smile on his face for the first time. They're terrified of a class action suit. Anya nodded. They're rewriting the entire overtime policy. Actual pre-approval forms. It's because of you, Maya. I shook my head. It's because of us. One voice is a complaint. Many voices are a movement. I told them my plan. I was going to take the settlement, but I wasn't taking the new job. I was going to use the money to pay off my debts and then start something small, a website, maybe workshops. A place where people could learn how to document their work, to know their rights. Leo smiled. I'll be your first IT consultant, he said. My fight had started for my own survival. But it had created something bigger, a purpose. 6 months later, I walked past the gleaming glass tower of Sterling and Price. I didn't feel anger or triumph. I felt a quiet peace. I didn't work there anymore. I worked for myself, from a sunny corner of my now paid-off apartment, helping others build their own shields of evidence. My phone buzzed. A text from Sam. Asterisk, just got the all-staff email. New company-wide policy. All overtime auto-approved at time and a half. No manager override. They're scared of us. Thank you, Maya. Asterisk, I put my phone away and kept walking. My father's lesson was now my life. Documentation is armor. Patience is a strategy. Quiet truth is the most powerful force in the world. Asterisk, asterisk, and sometimes, justice is just one simple question, asked in a silent room, that changes everything.